All right. So I'm just going to open up the directions. If you're just joining us, welcome. Good morning. My name's Michelle. It's not Jeannie. I just have Jeannie's computer, and it's I have myself kind of off camera right now because I have my back turned to the camera. You're just going to be looking at the back of my head. So anyway, we're going to take a look at opening up our directions and taking a look at step 1, which is going to begin on page number, what is it? 5. All right, so we're going to begin actually with some pressing. So we're going to take our orange pieces and we are going to take them over to the pressing station. I've got my iron turned on to high. So that's these 2 larger pieces. And we're going to fold them widthwise with the wrong sides together. So this is what we're going to do. So a hamburger or taco style, not hot dog style. So taco style, hot dog style. We're going to do them taco or hamburger style. And we're going to press those. I'm going to add a little breast press to that. And then my design is already loaded. So again, we're working today with the 5x7 design.
Okay, yeah. I'm taking classes on Zoom, so.
All right, so I'm going to fold my pieces now in half, wrong sides together, pretty sides out. And then I'm going to press this seam. So here's kind of the difference. Let me zoom in here a little bit so you can see if you don't already have one, what you can see what a pressing block or clapper does. So here's my pressed seam, and it's nice, but look at what happens if you actually add a clapper or a pressing block. So the idea of the wood is that the wood absorbs the heat and leaves like a razor sharp edge with your press. This came from my garment days, but now look at the difference. Now it's like really a sharp press. So I have them in like 3 or 4 sizes because I like to be able to use them in the hoop as well. So sometimes if you're doing appliques in the hoop, they come in really handy because, you know, you might be using your mini iron or something in there to press, and then this actually helps as well. So I do like having one that fits inside my smallest tube. So I think my smallest one's like 4 inches long, and the rest of them, one of them's from the 70s. It's not a June Taylor, something else. And then I have a couple of them that I purchased since I've been here at the store because the different sizes come in and I can see how they can fit in different hoops. It's just really a nice thing to have around. All right, so these are ready for later. See, look how nice and sharp. All right, I'm going to set these aside for now. I don't think the iron was really hot with the first one. Let me give it maybe it wasn't quite hot enough. So the other thing that's nice to have these pressed really flat is when we sew these on, there's going to be that part in the project where your embroidery foot is going to move around. And if things aren't taped or flat, the embroidery foot's going to get caught underneath the fabric. And something like that will end up pulling the entire project out of the hoop just before you're done with it, which is no fun at all. So I'm going to remind you to tape and watch for the foot, but having a razor sharp edge on that back piece by getting a good press will help you as well.
Class reunion in Brea.
All right, So I'm sewing on the Solaris this morning. And I've got my design pulled up. I do have my stabilizer in the hoop already. And I'm gonna put gray thread in mine. You can go ahead and put white thread in. We're gonna be doing the tack down for the batting and stuff. I'm gonna put gray thread in so that you can kind of see it as I'm stitching if you're following along. And then that way it's going to get covered anyway, so you won't see it. So you don't need gray thread. I'm just going to put some on so that you can actually see my stitching line. How's everybody doing? Can you believe it's like November already? My gosh, where did all the time go?
I don't know. I don't
Hello, Carolyn. I see you down there. All right. So I have my design loaded. I'm going to select embroidery. And I'm going to go ahead and run the first stop, which is color stop number 1 out of 12 color stops, which means that you're going to have to change thread 12 times, not necessarily 12 colors. And it's going to run the placement tack down line for me for my batting. All right, so moving on to our next step, we're going to place the base project batting down, and it's going to stitch the mug rug template. Do not trim the batting at this time. So here's my batting. Sometimes I can tell which is the right side and the wrong side, and sometimes if batting doesn't have the scrim on it, I can't really tell. So I don't think it matters with the mug rug anyway. I'm just gonna, so mug rugs are also a great way to use up batting scraps. Now I would tape this down if I were following the directions, but if you've ever done batting with no scrim and transport tape, it's not a match made in heaven. It's going to be all sticky. So I'm just going to live dangerously, and I'm going to tack it down and just hold on to it so it doesn't move. My batting's plenty big enough for me to get my hand out of the way. All right, so we are on at page 5. We are looking at step number 7, which will be color stop number 4 at this point when we sew it. We're going to place the background piece of fabric right side up, completely covering section 1. So the big part up here, that's section 1. And I am going to give my little blue fabric a little bit of a press with some best press, so it's nice and flat and has some nice body to it. All right, I'm still just leaving my gray thread on because nothing that I'm sewing right now is like top stitching or anything like that that's ever going to show when I'm done. So I know I'm going to put the orange down here, so I'm just going to kind of line this about 1/2 inch or so over that stitching line. And this I am going to give a little bit of tape on the sides here. So let me grab a little transport tape.
Elbow surgery, and so this is his first outing, and he gets back Sunday afternoon, and we're leaving on Wednesday morning, and it's supposed to snow, so I don't know how that's going to go with pulling a trailer. Kind of.
Okay, Miss Michelle? We're putting the big blue one over the bigger part of the mud rug?
Yes. So let's see, I think, yes. Because my sample, the kit that I had for my sample was backwards. So this should have been blue, this should have been orange, and you can tell because the thread down here is orange. So my sample, when I ran the sample, my kit was, the colors were backwards. So yes, you're putting the big blue piece of fabric over the bigger part of the template there that it drew. I didn't even notice. I guess I was having so much fun stitching. I didn't even notice till I got to the very end. I'm like, wait a minute, why is this orange thread sewing on orange fabric? I didn't realize my kit was backwards. All right, so we now have a tack down line that will sew. That will be color stop number 4. Again, I'm still using gray. So here's how I usually do things even when I'm at home. I have what I call the nondescript light gray color. I think it's called like Starlight or something like that. I use that every time I have positioning lines, tack down lines, applique lines, anything that I need to see that's not going to show when I'm done. And I use that gray thread because I can see it better than whatever thread color is usually required. And then also if I'm filming it, it makes it easier for you to see on the other end when you watch the video. So I won't change my gray thread out now until I need to put in a color for the actual embroidery part. So I just leave my gray thread and it's going to do all of my tacking down and things like that. And you'll never see it, but I'll see it and you'll see it in the video. All right, let me give a little bit of a press to my other piece of orange fabric.
Oh, I don't cut it. This is from the- Hold on. Okay. Okay. Do I get that too? Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna take this now and we're gonna position this. Let me get in a little closer here. We're gonna position this right sides together because when we sew this, it's gonna flip over this way. We want to take the long edge and we want to position it with the stitching line.
All right. Not a lot. I've done a lot of hand embroidery.
You can trim the fabric before we sew this. You can trim the blue fabric up to that stitching line. This is what those double curved scissors come in handy for. And I usually, in this case, will go a little bit away. It's going to get covered with the other fabric anyway. I don't want to get right up to that stitching line and cut through my stitches. So I'll just follow along and just close, but not right up to it. There we go. Your fabric's always a little bit more than what you actually need. So now I'm going to take this long edge and I'm going to position it on that stitching line. So one thing I'm going to note with mine, your kits don't have this, but and in the wild, when you do your own, you may have this. I have this salvage edge here. I don't want this to show. It's okay that it comes in a little bit here because remember, it's going to go around and sew a seam there. So I want to avoid it if I can, but if a little bit gets in there, it's totally fine because there's another seam that's going to come around. So when it sews the back to the front, it's going to cover a lot of that. But just so that you know that you wouldn't want to like get a ½ an inch worth of that salvage edge in there. But we got to use our fabric all the way up, right? I brought a piece of sparkle vinyl into the store this morning that's just big enough to do a kit out of my stash because now be honest, how many of you have that bag that says, okay, this piece isn't really big enough to do anything, but it's too big for me to throw away, but I'll never use it. But I have a lot of bags of those, especially if you piece or quilt or anything like that. I know you've got them too. So I'm going to go ahead and run run color stop number 4. And it looks like I positioned my tape well since I don't have to pick tape out of my seam allowance because that's like my least favorite thing to do. All right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to the iron because I'm gonna go ahead and press that seam flat when I flip it. So I'm just gonna take this off and I'm gonna put you on dark for a moment so you don't get dizzy when I swing the camera around. All right, so I'm over at my pressing station. I'm gonna remove my tape. Yes, transport, paper tape, and batting are not friends, but I needed to have that stay, so. And I think I have another piece over here somewhere, yeah. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, this is why I love this iron, okay? Fits in my hoop. Fits in a 5x7 hoop. I pressed it flat. Now I'm gonna bring it over and I'm just gonna use my fingers or the tip of my pressing block to put this down flat. So now when I go to do embroidery, I'm starting with a perfectly flat piece of fabric. It's not gonna bunch on me. It's not gonna pucker on me. It doesn't have any wrinkles and it's got a little bit of best press on it. All right. So now I am actually ready to stitch the background tack down line. All right. As your foot comes around, it could catch these edges. So just to be safe, I'm going to put a little bit of tape in those edges. Just right there. I think when we every single one of us, I bet, when we first started doing embroidery and in the hoop projects, had that moment when the foot came around, the embroidery foot came around, got underneath a seam or a fold or something, and continued to go while it pulled our project completely out of the hoop. Sad but true. All right. So I'm still leaving my gray thread on. So the other thing that can be helpful if you don't want to get your fingers in there, of course, it would be nice if it was a clean one, is a chopstick. So I'm ready to stitch. Oh, look at that. The piece where it got dirty, not even going to show. All right, so you can see that it's going down that way. That means over this side is where it's going to have the possibility of catching. And then I'm also going to show you a little trick with your machine. All right, so if you have a baby lock or brother machine and you have this green light, that usually just means go pedal to the metal. But if you press and hold it, your machine will go slow in startup mode until you let go of it. So if I'm worried that this foot's going to catch here, I'm just going to press and hold. I'm not letting go of it. So my thumb is still there until it goes over that. And then when I let it go, it goes back to top speed. So that's always a little bit of a safety net for you when you're working with different layers of fabric that might possibly cause an issue. All right. So it looks good there. So let me see what our next step is. I may have to change my thread color. So we're moving over to page number 6, and we're stitching our quilting detail. So the quilting detail can be in white if you is as per the instructions, or if you like to have your quilting monofilament, go ahead and put some monofilament thread in. Your project, you can do however you like, but monofilament would work just as well. I'm going to also take my tape off now because the the stitching went all the way around, so there's nothing for it to catch under anymore. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the tape off. And then I'll go ahead and start my quilt, my rows of quilting, which is the top of page 6, left-hand corner, step 14, color stop number 6. Miss Karen, I love your pink chair. Is it comfy?
What is that?
I said, I love your pink chair. Is it comfy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a gamer chair. So it like reclines, has a footstool and has speakers.
Oh my God, you have speakers in your chair? I
Yeah.
have to have one of those. Mainly I have to have one of those because I oftentimes will run both machines at the same time. I'll have something going on my multi-needle and something going on the luminaire. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I can't hear my audiobook unless I put earbuds in. So that would help me a lot.
Yeah. Oh, be perfect.
Miss Shelley, how are you doing this morning? Good? You can just wave and give me a thumbs up. Next time you don't have to leave your machine. Hey, I just like to say hello to everybody. And then Miss Lori and Miss Alice, how are you doing today? Good? You can just nod. Yeah, it's a great day. It's Friday, right? Isn't that Friday? Yay, Lori's doing the dance. Friday's good. So I don't know what you guys are doing, but the hubs and I are putting away Halloween decorations. We ended up with over 200 trick-or-treaters. So we literally ran out of candy. I had to go get more candy and there was no candy to get. It looked like somebody had literally decimated the aisles at both Rayleigh's and CVS drugstore. All right, next up is the step that's going to do the dice placement line, and that's also in white, so I'm going to just leave it. If you switched to monofilament thread for your quilting stitch, you might want to switch back to the white thread now for the placement on your dice. It might be hard to see if it's in monofilament. All right, I'm going to place my Kimberbell leather or faux leather over the dice. And one of the tips that I can give you on this is when you're doing these smaller objects that you will have to go back and trim, give yourself some room to actually have a piece that you can pick up. I used to try to get one side like right on the line so I didn't have to trim it, but it makes it really hard to pick up the vinyl for the rest of it. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself some cutting space with this. And I really try hard to keep my tape out of the stitching line because, man, that's like if I used to think that taking stitching out of seams or unsewing stuff was like my least favorite job, but man, picking tape out of stitching line, that really took it away. That's definitely my least favorite thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and change to black thread now because it's going to do the tack down and the detail at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and change out to my black thread.
Hi, this is Shelley. I was just wondering where by chance would I be able to get the printout directions for this little cutie?
It should, did it not come with your email with the design?
No, I searched and searched. The only thing I received was the embroidery design, which I was able to put on a USB, but I never received like a printout to where I could print it off and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
You know what? Let me write myself a note and then I'll ask Jeannie.
okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to repeat the process if you don't have it, right?
Well, I'm planning on doing this. My daughter got married in February and her and her husband do game nights. So this is going to be part of their Christmas gift. I'm wanting to make like 6 of these little things for their, for at her house. So then when
it's perfect.
their friends are there. I thought, it's going to be part of a Christmas gift. So I thought,
Yeah, we love
this
game
is
night
kinda
at my
cute.
house too.
Right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I'll ask Jeannie as soon as we have a little break here. When it starts to sew the satin stitch, because that takes a few minutes. I think it takes like 8 minutes for the first one. So once that starts running, I'll step away for a moment and see if I can get that information now for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Michelle?
Yep.
we know what Kimberbell's gonna do for the digital club next year?
Oh, isn't that supposed to be a secret?
I don't know.
Actually, I don't know, but Jeannie would if it's, but I don't know if we can tell you yet, but I'll find out. I'll ask her that too.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna trim around. So now that you can see this, this is what I meant about leaving enough fabric all along the edges so that you can actually pick it up to trim it. It's much easier. And frankly, the piece is never gonna be that big that even if you tried to make it land on one line so you wouldn't have to trim as much, it's not gonna be big enough to do anything else. So make it easy on yourself and give yourself a little room. Makes it easier to trim. All right. So here's where my favorite double curve scissors come in. I do, the curve is so it fits in your hoop. And then the other one is because so the blade comes up, it just makes it easier to go around. Now this is what they call a raw edge applique. Obviously it's leather, so we would know that anyway, but oftentimes even with fabric, they'll do present like a raw edge. So you want to get as close as you can to the stitching line, but obviously you don't want to cut through it because that is your final stitch. All right, and then for those little jump stitches in there, I love these little hooks. They have a little hook on the end. So you can actually get the little hook next to one side of that, clip and clip. I just feel like the right tools make it a lot more fun. So when I have like any kind of jump stitching in between, stuff like that, this just makes it nice because I can go from the side. I'm going to go in, get that blade up next to the dot there, clip one side, and then lift it with that, the same thing, and clip the other side.
I do. This is it. Well, for one. Because I don't see that. That's floral, so you don't have that. I'm like, and then I don't know if you have that. Do you want to do, I didn't know these. But if you
Right.
want to do this one instead. Want like a navy. And the kid t-shirt was like, it was one of those. I think this one, yeah, that one, I don't like. It's not like.
right. Okay, so the next step is going to involve, and that this is, the last two steps actually of embroidery are going to involve satin stitching. So I'm going to take that piece of copper, which is clear, and I have to locate it. And I'm just going to put it over the whole thing. And then I'm just going to tape this down. I just really like the way, okay, on this one, you can feel one side is kind of rough and side is kind of smooth. So I'm going to put the rough side down. This is tear away topper, not heat away topper. And it's just going to keep all of my satin stitching right. It's going to pop it on the top of my embroidery project. Oftentimes it's not called for. I just know anything with the satin stitch, I reach for it because I'm always happier with it when it's done. All right. Let me get this on the machine and then I will go to Jeannie with questions. All right, so we're stitching out the part of the embroidery design. It's going to be color stop number 9. This is how we in black thread. So I'm going to slip this on there. So if this didn't have batting in it, a lot of times if I'm just doing lettering or anything like that on top of, like, say, a napkin or something that doesn't have batting in it, I might be tempted to change to a black bobbin, only because sometimes black thread tends, I know I wouldn't like it if it did pull any white bobbin thread. It's not going to happen in this case because we have batting underneath it. It's a non-issue, but just know that if you're noticing that on your satin stitching, that when you're done with your letters, you're seeing a little bit of like white bobbin thread pull through, just switch to a black bobbin next time if the lettering calls for black. All right. I am pushing go and I'm going to go ask Jeannie the answer to your question. Hold on, ladies. I'm going to step away for a minute. Yes, that's correct. All right, so Shelley, Jeannie's sending you the directions right now. And Carolyn, Jeannie does know. It's a secret until it posts next week. No, not really. She's like, yeah, she said they're really cute. And the digital design we'll post for next year. We'll post in the website sometimes next week. And she said they're really cute ones. So looks like we'll be having fun again next year, huh?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Michelle, if you look at the Kimberbell booth from the Houston show, they have a shelf of next year's designs.
Oh,
But
do
they-
they?
Yeah, but they didn't really zoom in on it too much.
Well, sometimes they're just going to keep you asking questions and wanting more, right?
Yeah.
That's a crazy show up there. I got to tell you, I don't miss not having to do that one anymore.
I think this is the first time they did it in 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I got kicked out. Did you kick me out, Michelle?
I did kick you out. Well, you'd know if I kicked you out because I wouldn't have let you back in. But actually, no, I've never kicked anybody out. But I'm glad you're back. I did notice that you kind of went poof there for a moment.
Yeah, I don't know. My internet's iffy out here. You got 200 trick-or-treaters. I got 2.
Oh, well, we, it's kind of cool. When my husband and I first moved to, it's been like 22 years that we moved to that neighborhood. And we didn't get hardly any trick-or-treaters. So we thought, okay, this is not right. We have to make them come. We have to make this happen because it's my favorite holiday. So we immediately started giving out full-size candy bars. And any kid knows that where you go to those houses, you tell all your friends. So
Word gets out.
yeah, word gets out. And plus my husband used to go just crazy with the decorations. So the last 3 years that we decorated our house, it's like the news crew was there. I mean, it was just like this whole full-on Halloween assault on our front lawn. And then there was another guy the last year that I did a video of it as it was going up, a time lapse as it was going up, as it was rolling, through Halloween. And also there was a guy in the neighborhood. He's a professor at the university. I think he's he's a geologist. I think he's a geologist. But anyway, he always does this giant crew of people he takes to Burning Man every year. So he has this amazing art car thing. It's actually not an art car. It used to be a military vehicle, a military transport vehicle of some sort. Now it's got all kinds of disco lights all over it. But he was taking the kids up and down the street in this art car. So the entire neighborhood was like part of it. And then it just kind of trickled off. All right, so we are on color stop number 10, stitching out roll. I'm still leaving my my topper on. I will take it off before we do that final like swirly thing. Whoops, I should probably thread it first. It doesn't so good if it doesn't have thread in it, right? So anyway, it just kind of trickled off. And then COVID hit it hard, and it's like last year we had like 12 trick-or-treaters, 12 or 14 trick-or-treaters, and I was like so disappointed. But there's a lady that we had like at least 20 or 30 new families in that area that moved in with little kids. And the lady down the street started a little kids parade. So to keep trick or treat safe for the kids, she started this little kids parade, and she sent in, she put out flyers in everybody's mailbox. If you want to participate, please just put a table out in front of your house and we'll know which way to direct the little kids parade. I mean, who doesn't like little kids and dogs in costumes? I had a dog show up wearing a giant cupcake. I mean, but this, she did it. She started that about a year ago. But anyway, now one of the ladies on the little other side street in the neighborhood, she decided to do it too. So we had 2 parades, and we thought, okay, this will be great. So we went and we made sure we had like 5 full boxes of full-size candy bars. Well, somebody put it on Facebook. So by 8:00, we had no candy. We went through 5 boxes of full-size candy bars. And then I went to CVS and got 6 bags of candy. And all of that was gone too. By 8:00, everything was gone. But you know what? A good time was had by all. I saw the most adorable dog costumes, the most adorable kid costumes. The part that's really fun about the parade thing is parents are encouraged to dress in costume with their kids. So it's like everybody's in costume. It just makes it fun and festive and Halloweenish again. And I think there's one lady down the street that actually, while the kids are trick or treating at her husband's table, she's mixing cocktails at hers. So, so it really, it's just that kind of neighborhood that the whole neighborhood, it's just really a small neighborhood. It's like 4 streets. But everybody knows everybody, everybody knows everybody's kids, everybody watches out for everybody else. So it was amazingly fun. But I looked at my husband, I went, we got to get way more candy next year. We may have to start buying boxes of candy in like September. I love it. That's my favorite holiday. I could care less about, it's not that I could care less about Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I'm not really a huge fan of turkey, so we're going to make ravioli. And then Christmas, it's like, yeah, we don't have any family here. It's usually just the husband and I, and we don't see anybody. Nobody comes, our friends, all of our close friends, they usually travel out of town for Christmas. So, we still celebrate, but we don't celebrate like we did when the kids were little, So Halloween's my gig. Oh, the other candy that I gave away, I went to Disney with my friend Jen for that Oogie Boogie thing at California Adventure, and they have like 10 different treat trails, and all the people in Southern California, I guess, that are pass holders, that's where they take their kids to trick or treat, So we went through, and Jen was determined that we were going to do all 10 of the treat trails. And so this year, the theme at the treat trails was villains. So at every treat station, there was a villain from a different Disney movie. We had Cruella, we had Maleficent, we had Sid, we had everybody, which was fine, except for I got this ginormous bag of candy, because let me tell you, Disney is definitely not stingy at the treat trails. And then, so I'm like, I looked at it, I'm like, I went in the carry-on bag. It's like, I don't have room for all this candy. So I gave half of it to her. And then I took home what I could fit in my purse. I had to give away my Disney candy. Even that went in the box with the 6 boxes or the 6 bags from CVS, but it's fine. I have no problem with it. But I'm like, wow, this was great. And then I felt terrible because we couldn't get the lights closed off fast enough. And the one lone last trick-or-treater, I didn't even have a candy bar in the house anywhere. I said, I give you a toothbrush, but I don't think that's what you want, is it? She's like, no, thanks. So we'll just plan ahead more for next year. And then this was the year that the hubs pared down all of the decorations that were in the garage. Because we have a 2-car garage that you really can't put a car in because half the garage is Halloween decorations. So he told the lady that puts out the flyers, he told her, he's like, I want to pare down my garage. I got all kinds of different decorations. Most of them are animatronics. I like to pare this down. She's like, oh, I'll take care of it. So she put out flyers. And we had a parade of neighbors coming by and picking out 1 or 2 things that they'd like to have for their yard. So at the end of the trick or treat thing, John and I took a walk around the neighborhood and watched and saw what other people did with some of our stuff, that we used to have. And it was great. The best part is it now lives in somebody else's garage. All right. So if you didn't put topper on, you can go ahead and run the next step. I'm going to just pull this off really quick because I don't want that single running stitch does not need topper on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this off. And then I have I'm not going to worry too much about getting it out of the letters right now because I have tweezers. I can pull that out later. All right. And we're going to switch to the white thread.
Not a problem.
So on the bottom line, you're gonna have to readjust this one.
Yep.
This one, and the one in the back.
One in the back.
The one in the back is-
All right, so this is the little white flourish that goes around the little
And you said that
Um,
last time, and I
last decoration of the actual embroidery design.
Oh, yeah. I'm flossing it. Oh, that's what they say, that's what they call it.
So I'm going to take it off the hoop or off of the machine right now, not out of the hoop. And I'm going to tape my back on it. So I'm going to bring it over to the table and I'm bringing you guys with me. All right. So when it doesn't really matter which way you lay these down. One is going to cross the other. So where it crosses, it's going to overlap, I guess is a better word. Where it overlaps, you want to make sure you have plenty of tape this way and this way. So this way is so that as your embroidery foot passes over, hopefully it's going to come over the top of the tape. I know I hate picking it out of tape, but what we definitely want is for it to not catch and I'm not sure which way it goes around. I kind of think that maybe it goes around twice. I'm not sure. I don't remember. So first of all, I'm going to line this up so that I have enough seam allowance at the top and then down here as well. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and tape my center first.
It was a plain orange background. I was like, that's not a good idea. So I can't even get the thread on it. to be honest.
And then in these areas right here, because I don't remember which way it's going to come back on it first, I'm going to tape the tape this way. And I'm doing it that way so that as it comes around, the foot will land on this first and it'll just go right smoothly right over that little bump. And not grab the edge and pull it up and pull the rest of my project out of the hoop. And then I'm also going to give it some tape down here. So remember, if you have the Baby Locker Brother machine, you can stop your machine just as you get to that fold there where you put the two pieces together, and then press and hold the start button. Don't take your finger off of it until you want the machine to start going fast again. And you can slow it down that way. All right, I think I'm in there. And I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the white thread or gray thread. Doesn't matter because I won't see it. But since I have white in my bobbin, I'll just use the white. Oh, I don't even have to switch. I was thinking I still had orange on. All right, so the other thing that you can do is if you are fearful of it catching your project is you can slow the speed of the machine down. But really, I think you'll be fine if you taped. So let's see which way it's going to go. Looks like it's going to go that way first, but I might be wrong. Nope, that's the way it's going to go. All right, so as it comes around, I'm going to slow it down or stop it just before it hits that tape. And then I can press and hold. when it gets to the tape, I'm gonna let it go because it's covered. So no way it can catch. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of the hoop. I'll meet you at the table. I'm gonna give it a press before I turn it inside out. And I'm also gonna zoom the camera in on clipping your corners. So I originally came from a garment industry perspective of sewing. So when I clip my corners, I clip them a little bit different than I don't do the wedge thing there, because then you get a really pointy corner and it just kind of is hollow underneath. So I'm gonna show you how I trim corners. So we'll meet you at the table. All right, so I'm gonna pick my tape off.
Okay. Which direction does the spring go in the bobbin? In the bobbin piece.
All right.
Yeah. It's supposed to have a spring on spring to it. It's gonna dome inside? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. And that's what I thought.
Did you drop it and it popped out?
Of
I didn't know how to- that- I did that too.
Is there such a thing as armrests for the frame? So when you're doing shoulder work, you got somewhere to. You ever heard of such thing?
I mean,
If you're trying to get pinpoint accuracy,
All right,
I like it.
so I'm just gonna pop this out of the hoop. And let's get my iron warmed up again.
I know where I put it. If I do that.
Set that aside for now. So I'm going to begin by just trimming this square just to get the excess stuff off while my iron heats up. I'm not going to clip my corners yet. I'm just going to do the 1/4 inch seam allowance.
Elbow pads. There's one thing I did learn that. you get these up.
oh, are we here? Sorry. Yeah.
Are you cutting stuff
Yeah,
today?
I have our 2.5 right here.
All right, now that my iron's hot, I can give everything a little press. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to press these, the outside edge here really flat so that when you go to turn it, it gives you a nice corner. That even before I trim it. I want to mush all of that batting and stabilizer down so that it's kind of flat, makes it easy for you to turn, gives you a really nice finish on your little mug rug. All right, so I'm I'm going to clip my corners from the back side. Maybe I'll leave this over here. It might be easier to see.
That's for the apocalypse.
All right,
So if I turn it over to this side, I've got 2 lines of stitching there. So it's hard for me to tell which of those 2 lines is the actual last line. So I'm going to turn it over to the wrong side, or with the backing sticking up. And I'm get a real sharp pair of scissors, and I'm going to clip all the way to, but not through, the stitching line. So I'm just going to make just a wedge. All right. But that little wedge goes all the way to that stitching line. So when you turn, what you want to do is look at, if you have that wedge, when you turn and press, those little corners have some place to go, and that's going to give you a pointy corner. If you come down on the sides over here, that's going to give you a pointy corner, but that's going to give you a pointy corner that's very weak because it has nothing behind it. So again, I'm just doing one straight cut across all the way to, but not through, the stitching line. And I'm using the last stitching line because that will be the most accurate one. Oh, I could get probably a little closer with that one. And then the last one, let's see here. Through, but not to but not through the stitching line. All right. And then when I begin to turn, the idea is that I can get it out pretty square before I have to use a point turner. So I'm going to take my thumb, and I'm going to put my thumb right in that corner. And then I'm going to fold that to hold it, and then just push that corner through. And then wiggle. So look at how pointy the corner is before I've even used a point turner. All right, same thing. So from the inside, I'm putting my thumb on the inside there. I'm using my 2 index fingers, or index finger and middle finger, whichever's comfortable for you, to fold those seams forward, and then using the nails, to my nail or fingertip, to push that into the corner. And so when it comes out, it's already pointy. So you're not having to jab as much. All right. When I go to use my point turner, I'm not going to use this pointy edge. Let me zoom out a little bit now. I'm not going to use this point right off the get-go. What I'm going to try to do, and since this has a pocket in it, I'm going to show you. What I want to do is take this in, and I want to take this and try to run it along the seam line, so that when I get to the corner, I have something that fits in the corner like that, as opposed to poking a hole through the corner. So I'm going to slip this in there, and I'm just going to start working that. And then, so I'm actually trying to get between the seam allowance, and then I'm going to take that rounded edge and just go around that corner there. So I'm using that rounded part of the point turner. So now I have a nicely shaped corner. I mean, really 4 pieces of fabric and batting, and it's that pointy. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. I'm just going to work the rounded edge of my point turner. And I'm going to try to get it in the seam, within the seam, so that I'm actually pushing all of that excess towards the corner, because that's what it was cut for, to fill in that corner. And I really don't have a lot to do here. All right. If I still have something and I'm like, oh, I still like a little bit more there, that's fine. Don't jab. The same thing. You're going to actually put that point of that along the seam line and work towards that corner, working into the corner from both sides, the long side and the short side. So everything else looks pretty good to me here. This one could use just a little bit more. There we go. And then I'm good. I usually will try to press from the back, because if I press from the front with that Kimberbell leather on the front, then I'm going to need to put a pressing cloth on it, because it's going to, the iron will melt my leather.
Michelle,
Yes.
I've always wondered why, especially with something like a mug rug, because I've made a lot of them,
Uh-huh.
they don't do rounded corners.
You know, it makes sense, doesn't it?
To me, mine, I think they look better rounded.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Okay, so let me propose this to you then. You have a sewing machine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so before the last stitch out, because the last one just goes around, just sews the back to the front. If you prefer a round corner, just take the project out of the hoop, pin it, draw the lines, you have to draw the seam line where you're going to see, and just don't sew a rounded corner with your sewing machine. It's the same thing. The only thing that's different is the hoop is holding it in place. But
Right.
this is a very small rectangle. There's not a whole lot of places you can go wrong on it if all you wanted to do was do a rounded corner. Or the other way you could do it is, all right, so I go ahead and I finish it off in my hoop. All right. I'm gonna turn mine wrong side out so you can see where I'm gonna go with this. All right, so this is how it comes out when it's in my hoop, out of my hoop. I would rather this was round than square. Okay, I'm gonna take something that's round, I'm gonna put it in that corner, draw a line around it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go around that line instead with my sewing machine, even after it's completely done in the hoop. So let's see here. Let me press this out a little bit. I think that's a great question or comment, however you want to put it. And a lot of times if I do in the hoop zipper bags, I don't finish them in the hoop. I take them out of the hoop and finish them on a machine. Okay, so here's my point. I'm just going to put my screwdriver in there. And there's your rounded corner. So instead of stitching it, it's still going to stitch. You're just going to go back and just sew that little bit with your sewing machine and then trim as a rounded corner.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
I
like
don't
your
know why
idea.
somebody doesn't contact Kimberbell and tell them to give you that option.
Yeah, it would be, it's, you have a good point there.
And it would be so much easier and you would never poke through.
Yes. Well, I don't
No,
ever
I'm
poke
not.
through because I know how to use a point turner. And so that's what I try to do here is kind of teach you how to use a point turners. And again,
Yeah.
we're not dueling. It's not one of these boom. We're
Right.
not stabbing the corner. We're actually working it into, and then part of that too, that makes it hard is if you trim like this and then trim like this, all you have is that small little point of fabric and that whole corner collapses because there's nothing there when you get that point, when you get it turned, there's nothing there to fill in. So like this part, when you turn it, will fill in that corner. All right.
Yeah.
So that's a corner that when you're done is going to have some bulk to it. It's not going to be easy to poke that out. If I trim down the side here and I go to turn it, then I have like this is what I'm going to end up with. And when I do go to turn it, it's going to be really weak in that corner.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you can do some pressing as well ahead of time. I don't generally do this, but if I wanted to, I could do this. And corners are like the bane of our sewing existence, aren't they? So I can actually do that. All right, so now the corner is actually pointy before I even start. And the fabric is where it needs to go. Let's see if how that makes a difference. Because it will. All right, look at that.
Yeah,
So
but to me, it still looks rounded because it's so thick. So it should be in the first place.
Yeah. Good comment. I mean, really, the other thing you could do is you could trim the batting out of it because the batting is what's making it look rounded.
Yeah.
So since this is not, let's try that. You don't have to do it to yours. I'll do it to mine.
But I like rounded, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm with you. So if I trim out my batting and my stabilizer from that, let's see if I get a pointier corner. I suspect I will, but one never really knows until you try it, right?
Right.
All right, so now I have little to no batting in there.
It was $130 over in, buy-in. There was a printed like grant they had ordered on for autumn. Well,
All right,
it was
there you go. That's a little bit pointier. But I'm with
But
you. I think a rounded corner is great.
If you cut out the batting, doesn't it make it look flatter on the corners than along the seams?
Yeah, well, no, it probably won't because there's going to be a lot of fabric bunched in there. So this is the one I turned. Let me press there. This is the one that I cut the batting out. Let me press it from the back and see if it does. I don't think it will. You could cut the batting all the way around if you wanted to, but it just seems like it adds a lot of time
Yeah.
to what should be a really simple project. All right, no, not really. Looks fine to me.
Yeah.
Sideways, even sideways it does.
Okay.
So yeah, you could trim the batting out of the corners. That would take some of the bulk out. All right, did everybody get their little mug rug thing done? And Shelley, you probably have your directions in your email box because Jeannie was looking for was gonna send them when I brought that to her attention. Any
Okay,
other
I'll
questions?
check when we're offline here, but thank you
Okay.
so very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Yeah.
stitching with me, ladies.
Michelle,
Yes,
I did this yesterday with the little pocket. It's a mug rug.
let me swing around because I have my back to the oh my gosh, let me showcase you. Let me take the showcase off me and just hold. Can you hang on to that for just one moment so the other ladies can see it?
Sure.
Oh, that's adorable.
That's
So is
nice.
that so the pocket, so if you put a cup of tea or a cup of hot cocoa, the pocket's for your spoon or your napkin or something.
Right. And it was on Tattered Stitches and I think it's still $1.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. I like Tattered Stitches. I have quite a few of their designs. So here's what I love the most about Tattered Stitches. When you first started doing embroidery, and even now, even if you're experienced, what's the thing you complain about the most? Puckered stitches, right? Tattered Stitches is what they call a light stitch. So it's more airy. And so it rarely puckers. So yeah, that's beautiful. I love the pumpkin too. What does it say? Home on the bottom?
It
What's it
says
say?
where the pie is.
Oh, I like that. Yep, the pie is good, right? Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
All right, ladies, you have been a wonderful, wonderful group to stitch with. Thank you for hanging with me this morning. And this recording will be in the Dealer Digital Facebook group and also loaded to the playlist on A1 Vacuum and Sewing. So if you go to our A1 Vacuum and Sewing YouTube channel, then you can search by playlist. So you can search by the video's name. You can put in Dealer 2022, or you can there's a whole playlist for all of the Dealer Digital designs. All right, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great rest of your day. Bye
You
now.
too.